Welcome to Disc Off and Honest Take, episode number 3. That's right, episode 3, mid-ranges. We'll also be covering a couple new releases as usual, a little NG corner, some giveaways, and of course, legends of the game. So stay tuned for episode 3, and let's get started. Let's start with our new releases. So I'm doing something a little different this week, just so you guys don't think it's only about Next Generation Tour. I wanted to show you that this is just about discs in general and about all the different companies that exist. So we'll start with a new release sent to me from Mint Discs. That's right, they're not an NG sponsor, but they're a growing company, and they sent me the Bobcat. All right, so it's pretty cool mid-range. They knew I was doing mid-ranges this time, so they thought, hey, let's send Dave a mid-range and see what he's got. So I had no expectations on what to think here. I took it out. I had no idea how they flew. I had heard nothing about the disc. I had heard something about their drivers in the past. I think they have an overstable driver, but I hadn't heard anything about their mid-range. So I went out, I gave it a nice flat toss, and guess what? It went left. All my testers also said, guess what? It goes left. So, you know, I would first say that it's not a high speed mid-range. I'd say it's one of the slower mid-range type disc. Looks like it max weights around 176. I think, but the plastic feels pretty good. It's got a nice give, very similar to what's going around the market right now, you know, all generated from the Innova Star plastic. It has a nice give. It's not too thick, it's not too flimsy. I like that. Grip wise, when you look at the rim, it has a nice rounded rim here. It doesn't hurt my hand when I grab it. Some discs are sharp there. I don't really like that. It's got a nice depth, so if I wanted to power grip it, I could get my fingers on it. Overall, it's a good looking disc. My review of the disc and my team's review of the disc is that, hey, if you're looking for an overstable mid-range and something new to try, give this one a try. It's a pretty good disc. It flies really overstable into the winds. One thing that I did like, is that when I test the disc, I test them on all angles. And when I was able to throw this one with Anheuser and get full little S-curves, even 80, 100 feet, it would do a full S-curve instead of just a drop. So I thought that was unique and really cool, and just a little shout out to Mint Discs. Thanks for sending us the podcast a disc to test. Anything else in the future, just let us know. We'll include it. And if you're interested in Mint Discs, go out to infinitedisc.com and get yourself one today. Now, to the second new release of the day, and that would be the Emperor. Now, I don't have one with the new cool stamp yet. That's how new they are. I mean, you can order them online, I heard, but all I have is the X out stamp, but there's nothing X'd out about it. They just put that on there because they didn't have a stamp yet created. But I just want to say that this is good disc. So when I first joined Infinite, he told me he would be hooking me up with a tour disc, and I didn't know what to think. They sent it to me, and it's just what it ordered. I have my destroyers that go really far and fast that are broken in, and I have my nice fairway drivers and stuff that's overstable. This kind of fit a gap under destroyer, so it's not like the fastest disc I've ever thrown, but it is definitely not fairway. It's high speed, and it's consistent. It skips. It's nice and overstable, and I tested it in some winds. I took it to Jonesboro when it was really windy and tested it. Wow, it really holds. So I was impressed with the disc, and so are the players that I play with. As the way it, the overall disc and feel, this is that high quality Innova Star pop top, stretched just right. It's got the nice grip. It feels very close to a destroyer. I might like say that, I didn't want to say this, but I might say it's like a SDS destroyer. It's very close to that, that utility disc that's overstable. It skips a lot. The other thing that is, this is in, my disc will be in the Star Splatter. They are making it in some Glow Flake for Garrett and some other plastics, but mine's a Star Splatter, and that's the one I tested. And like I said, right in the bag, loving it, and everybody that's played with me that I've let throw it loves it. So go out and get yourself an Emperor today. They're selling them in Infinite Discs. If you want to support my tour, that'd be helpful. If not, get a Garrett Girthy one, support his tour. If not, just get a regular one. But you need to try an Emperor because, Innova does make Infinite Discs. So it is high quality made. It's not from like a, Infinite just trying to guess their way through it. They've employed the top disc manufacturer in the world to design their discs, and he's done it. And the funny thing I'll say is, when I was with Latitude too, Thomas would design discs for his other companies, Westside and, Dynamic, And a lot of times when he designed one for them, it came out better than the one he designed for his own company. And he always used to be like, man, every time I make one for them, I make it really good. And I think that's, can happen in all situations. And I think Dave Dunapace, this time, really sent Infinite a good disc. So thanks, Innova, thanks, Infinite, and go out and get your Emperor today. Well, that's all I have for the new release section. I only have 2 this time, but next time I'm going to start adding products, not just discs. So stay tuned for the new releases in the episode number 4. Now to the meat and potatoes of the show, which a lot of you guys tune in for, which is the review of the mid-ranges. Now, before we start into the mid-ranges, it's really hard to choose mid-ranges from the companies. Almost every company makes a lot of different mid-ranges. So what I did is, you'll see, is I just kind of picked what I thought was a good mid-range or has been popular, I heard good stuff about, and I tested that mid-range. Now some of them may not be exact, some of them might be the more overstable version from a company, some might be the more understable version from a company. But overall, these are mid-range from each of the 10 brands, and let's just start our review. I will tell you that it was fun doing mid-ranges because there's a lot of discs here I'd never thrown before. But let's just start with what we know and start at the end. So the first one that I was going to test happens to be an NG player package, luckily, and it's the Buzz, and it's, the swirly Buzz. And I don't know if that matters at all, but, what's funny is when I threw for Innova and all the players threw Buzzes, we all thought that Buzz was a really understable disc. I mean, we didn't know, but just based on what the Discraft guys threw and how they threw it. But that's not the case when I tested this Buzz. I mean, this Buzz flexed, and it held as good as any mid-range I've thrown. So, I'm not sure if I have a really overstable one or if they're supposed to be like that, but first things first, it is not an understable. It is at least stable to overstable. It has a nice flight. One thing that I do like is about this swirly plastic is it's really upgrade for Discraft. It feels really nice. It's got a nice grip, and it looks really pretty. Now, profile of the disc, I like it. It's thin, and I think that's why a lot of people have always liked it over the years. Is it's got a nice feel in the hand. It makes you feel like you're almost throwing a driver, but you're throwing a mid-range. So that I like. The team thought the same thing as I did. They were surprised how overstable it was overall, and we would give this a great grade. It's a good disc. If you're looking for a mid-range that is straight to stable, this is probably a good choice from Discraft. I liked it. I'm not sure if all the other Buzzes are going to fly the same as this, so just take my word on these NG ones, but these are good and surprisingly stable. Great job, Discraft. Now, next one is Latitude, and what I'm going to show you, you're going to be like, well, that's not a Latitude, that's a West Side. Well, Latitude makes West Side and Dynamic, that's why it's called Trilogy. And when I was picking through the mid-ranges, I just wanted to include this one. I could have chose the Mace, or I could have chose, many different ones, Warship, stuff like that. But I decided on the Bard. And the reason is just because this is a great mid-range disc. I threw it when I played for the company, and it's just perfectly flat, and it's got a great feel, and it's really close to I hate to say it, but originally those flat top rocks that were back out in the 90s, it really has that feel. And one thing that I'll say is it's probably the most overstable mid-range out of the box that I've ever thrown. I'm sure they make ones that are extreme versions like Gators and stuff, but something that has that 178 to 180 max weight feel, this is one of the most overstables. And I've, thrown these for a long time, and they break in perfectly. Like this one here, if you look at it, I've thrown this for a year and a half, and it still flies brand new. So I would have to say that, the team found this to be surprisingly friendly. They didn't know that, much about this disc because it was hard to come by in the States. I bought this as a grocery store in Sweden when I was there, or Finland or something. But this is a really good mid-range, and if you're looking for something that feels good in the hand, has a good plastic, then I would go out and try one of these BT Bards. It's soft, but not soft. I don't know how to explain that, but it feels good in the hand. It's like the old DX from Innova. It's really good made disc, and if you haven't tried it, go out and get a Bard, for real. Now, the next one I wanted to test, and I actually was, for me, one of the most exciting ones was this Ghost. I know that the Ghost was an attempt to make a 8-time rock, is what I was told years ago. I don't know if that's still the case. And it feels good. I mean, when you put it in the hand, it does kind of feel like one. I mean, I got to give him that. It's got that tight bead, the same height. I'm not sure if it has the same rise here as a rock. That's hard to come by. Dave's got his own techniques, but Legacy has really made a nice disc here. When I threw this, out of all the mid-ranges, it went the furthest. Now, maybe it's only 5-10 feet, but I'm just saying, I threw them back and forth numerous times, so did my team, and this one carried about 5-10 feet further than rocks or buzzes or whatever. So that part was kind of surprising. And the other thing about it is I don't know, they found a good mix. It's like DX, Innova DX, but it's a little better. I don't know. It doesn't chip up. As you can see, I threw it. It doesn't even have a mark on it, So I think that this Excel plastic that they have here with the Ghost, I like this. So if you're looking for a disc that's rock-like or mid-range that flexes and flies straight and does all those different things, I think you could make a bag of these. I'm a big proponent of having 4 or 5 mid-ranges that are the same in your bag and then having different varieties of broken inness. I think this would be a good example of a disc that you could have 4 or 5 varieties and have all the different mid-range shots in your bag. So great job, Legacy. This is one of your best discs that I've ever tested, and I'll probably start throwing it. I mean, I threw it a little bit and I was going to put it in the bag, and then when I tested this one, I was like, wow, I forgot how good this thing really is. So great job. Now, next one is coming out. It's a M3 by Prodigy. It's the Kevin Jones Tour disc. As you can see, I got the signature Kevin Jones here. And basically, this one is a part of our Premier Player package for our bigger events, in the summer, that if you choose Prodigy, this will be part of your package. You get a M3 from Kevin Jones. But I think this is interesting. For me, it's not the type of disc that I throw. I never threw real shiny mid-range, and it seems to be that's a lot of the what the kids like today, is that shiny mid-range. But when you feel it, it feels to me kind of, it's not, like those rocks and ghosts and stuff like that. It has more of a rounded edge, so it's closer to Buzz feel in the hand, but it does have this bead lift, so it's like Buzz meets the rock or something. So I think that's what they were going for, and I think it's pretty cool. It has some integrity in the plate. It's not poppy, has some give, and when I threw it and the team threw it, it's kind of a straight disc. What's funny is you could turn it, and as it turned, it didn't turn over and go away. It would keep gliding, but it didn't try to fight flex, so it would go down. And I think that they have other ones that you can flex with, M2s, M1X, all this new stuff that coming out. But the M3, it really flew kind of like what I expected the Buzz to be like, let's be honest. And it just held over and, had nice flight, and then dropped and, glided pretty far. So I was kind of impressed with it for that. So I think if you're a regular throw-in, my team found that this was an easy throw for them. So if you're not, a world-class pro that rips it real hard, I think that you'll enjoy the M3. And as I know, a bunch of the Team Prodigy guys just love M3. So, all right, now, next one is Dismania, another one of, our sponsor. The MD, which is funny, is I tested this way back in the day because Climo, when we first were on Innova, and we were like, me and him were like the first 2 guys to even mess with this stuff. UC gave us some stuff and was going to sponsor us, and then it was a conflict of interest with, being on, same team, kind of like they have now. But, so I tested it, and Climo used to love this thing. Like, I have a first run that has Climo's name on it that he gave me, and it is, one of his favorite discs for years, and I see why now. I never really gave it much of a chance. I was messing around with the control driver that he gave me more, because that's the one I tested, and Champ was, taken to this one. And I was really surprised, this one was right up with the Ghost within a foot or two. Everybody else was a little about 10 feet back, but this thing goes far, and it just had like a really nice glide. I don't know how to explain it, but maybe it's the plastic, the way it looked in the sunlight or something, but when I was throwing it, I was highly impressed with how well this thing glides once it hit its angle. Now, it wasn't overstable. It didn't fight flex or anything like that, but it really just cooked, and it just stayed up in the air. I almost couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this thing really glides. So I think for, my team agreed, and for like a regular, non-world-class pro, this could be a great mid-range, and I can see why they're selling so many. Good job, Dismania. So this next one is the MVP Access, and I gotta say, compared to all these 2 are really close, the Dismania and the MVP Access. If you look at them, they're pretty similar. They feel pretty similar. The Dismania one's a little softer. Some people like that. I like this taut one of this MVP Access. It's really nice. I love the black rim. I don't know why, but it just feels good in the hand, so I see why people are buying it. And I think, again, MVP just making some high-quality discs. Every time I test them, I say good words about them, but they're different, but they're good. And I think that that's a real good thing in the market. I mean, you can't just make what everybody else makes and stay in business. I think having your own niche and making something that people can still use serves a great purpose to the market. So my team liked this one. They had this in the top 3 because, like I said, many of them haven't even thrown a lot of these discs because, most people haven't thrown all the different brands discs. And they found that for a regular player, this is really friendly. It doesn't flex hard or anything like that, but it does hold the line that you throw on, and I liked it a lot. And if it was not in this shiny plastic, I'd probably add it to my bag. But you know me, I don't like shiny mid-range for my bag, but really good. Now, next one I'm reviewing, and I may have reviewed it in the past or mentioned it in the past when I'm in the bag, but is the Gateway Prophecy. This was a surprising disc for me. I have a red one that I'm throwing in the shiny plastic, but I liked it so much. I called Dave and I said, hey, I like the disc. It feels good in the hand. I like the flight, but I'm not really big on shiny mid-range. You got any dull ones? And so he sent me his version of a dull DX one, and it feels pretty good. It's like somewhere between a little more than a Bard. That's why I think I liked it. If you look at the Bard and the Prophecy, they're pretty close. Right? I'd say the Prophecy is got a little more hook here, and it feels a little stiffer, which isn't a bad thing for my taste. I like that stiffness. And, flight-wise, that's probably why I liked it also, is it was the closest I've thrown to the Bard. I could rip on it, it was stable, but it wasn't so overstable, it didn't fly. And if you haven't tried this one from Gateway, the Prophecy, you need to get out and try it today, because I really liked it. My team really liked it. It was a little overstable for most of my team, but for 950 and higher player, this is a great mid-range. This is another one of those ones like the Ghost, where you could have five of them in your bag, all different break-ins. Now, moving right along, Innova is the next one, and I broke out a 10-time rock for testing, a brand new one. I could have chose any, but I always had a thing for the 10-time rocks. But rocks are all pretty much give or take, about the same. And I hadn't thrown this in a long time, and when I got out there, true as day, it's just like whatever line you throw it on, it flies. These KC rocks weren't known for big flex shots, but they do this immaculate kind of rides where they're like half turned and they just keep going forward. And I think that is the characteristic that all the other companies and people started from. The Rock and the Comet from Discraft were probably some of the first 2 popular mid-ranges, and I think the reason they were so popular is they both could hold that line and just, land straight. The fact that it doesn't need to finish or drop, and it just kind of glides like you'd imagine a Frisbee would fly. That's what this does. And so I have to say that, I like this disc, I always have, and I think that if you're looking for, having 4 or 5 mid-ranges in your bag, having, different varieties of KC rocks or any type of rock would be a good choice, just because also there's so many of them out there. That is the one thing that I find, is that trying to find discs that are broken in, that are quality, are difficult to come by. And there's lots of broken in rocks, so if you lose your broken in rock, you could probably go to a Lost and Found and get one. But if I lose my broken in Bard, I'm crying. I got nothing. So I think that's one of the bonuses. But overall, Innova makes a high quality disc, and earlier I was kind of comparing the Ghost to it. So let's take a look. I know this isn't an 8-time, but let's take a look. And you can see now why I like the Ghost. The Ghost and the KC here is very close. I think, almost identical. I don't know where the difference is. I probably have to take something out to measure it, but I think the only difference I can see is maybe in the plastic. This has got more of that gritty DX, that old stuff that people liked from Innova, and this has got more of that smoother new DX feel. But this will break in too, so like I said, Innova always made their money on the rock. It was their big disc. It was the one that put them on the map, and there's good reason for that. Now, moving along, we got 2 companies left. We don't want to leave anybody out. We got the Anubis, and I had to look down because I always pronounce it wrong. People make fun of me, but it's it's mid-range for this line of discs that they've had made, and it flies pretty good. A lot of the infant discs are thrower friendly, so my team, this was their favorite, because most of them don't have the arm of a world-class player, and they really liked that they could throw it with hyzer and it'd flip up. They could throw it flat and it would turn over. So the Anubis isn't that overstable. It's kind of an understable type mid-range, and I think that for most players it'll be a good turnover disc to have in the bag, for that really turnover for the world-class players. But for your average player, go out and get one of these. If you just play for fun, you'll find this to be a good mid-range. It's really friendly to the throw. It doesn't, go one direction too much, and it feels pretty good in the hand. The plastic is that DX, but it's taut. It's not all floppy, so it's not going to waffle on you, and it's got that rounded edge. For most people, don't like that sharp edge. It's rounded, so when it leaves your hand, it doesn't hurt. So, overall, that's a pretty good disc. Thanks, Infinite. And then, finally, is the Costa Plasta. It's kind of a new release, but they're Costa Plasta Goat, Goete, and I have a Charlie Goodpasture one here. He sent it to me to test. Thanks, Charlie. And I'll tell you what, they don't let me down, that Costa Plasta company. Everything I put out and I go out and throw in the field, it does what it's supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying this flew any better than anything on the table, because I'm not, saying that, but I'm saying that he said it was going to be a straight mid-range with a, slightly stable, understable, and I was like, oh, okay. I threw it. It went slight turn, landed. Now, it didn't flex. And, it's not like overstable. I doubt it would hold much wind. But it is kind of Comet meets the Buzz. I hate to say that. Don't take it personal, Discraft. Don't be upset, that I'm comparing their disc to yours. But it's kind of Comet meets the Buzz-ish. It kind of feels like a Comet, the kind of texture, the feel of it. But it's got that Buzz rim right here where my finger is. And it flies kind of like what I thought a Buzz would fly like. So, again, really good disc, Costa Plasta. This is a different plastic than we've reviewed in the past. It's the non-see-through. And, again, I'm impressed. My team had this one also in the top 3 with the Access and the Anubis, because these were the thrower-friendly ones. So, again, try the Goat, Goete from Costa Plasta. What a nice mid-range for anybody's bag. Now, to go in a little more detail about the mid-range, like I said, there was so many to choose from. And what I'll say to you is this. Pick one or two that you really feel that you like, and then you can make them 4 or 5 in your bag. So how do you do that? You can't really start with an Anubis unless you're, really, probably 940 or lower. But if you're, striving to be a top advanced player or pro, you probably got to start with at least Rock, Prophecy, maybe the M line from Prodigy, could be Bard or Buzz, Ghost, like I said, and go get yourself 4 or 5 of them, right? All the same color, all the same weight, or different colors, but the same run, same weight. What you'll end up with is 5 discs that feel the same in the hand, but all fly different. Kind of like the M line, kind of what Prodigy is offering with their M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, but those are already done for you. And I think that I find that if you do it yourself and give yourself a Rock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a Ghost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you'll have broke them in yourself, and you know exactly when they turn, how understable they are, when they'll flex, how high to throw them, all that good stuff, and they'll feel more comfortable in your hand because you've thrown it so many times. So that's what I'll say about mid-ranges. All of these mid-ranges on the table are great mid-ranges, and I could get a birdie on any short hole with any of these discs. But I think the consistency of being good and getting better at a game is to pick the 1 or 2 that you like, put 3 or 4 in your bag, break them in, create understable to overstable, and stick with it. And guess what? If it's, one of these you choose and you do all that and then they're just not performing for you and you don't like it, then try a different one and put 4 or 5 in, you know what I mean? Or you could do what I could do and test them all and then figure out which one you want to get 4 or 5 of. But like I said, lean towards the overstable because you can break them in and you can make a very overstable disc an understable disc just by playing with it. We all know that. So that's what I have for mid-ranges. Look forward next time to fairway drivers. So we're moving up to fairway drivers. I know I can do overstable mid-range, but I just think that that's going to come up when I do utility discs. So we'll do utility discs in the future, which will be like odds and ends, overstable mid-ranges, putters, crazy skip discs. But we'll switch next to fairway drivers, and I have a couple exciting surprises for you. Now, with all these mid-ranges on the table, as you know, the question always is, what am I using? I know that I've given you my reviews about the discs, but what do I use here? Well, let's be honest here. I'm going to continue to throw a rock. It was exciting to be able to put a rock in my bag. It's just something I'm used to. It's not that it's better. It just feels good in the hand, and I have a lot of them. And I have a lot of them that are broken in, so I can practice with them. Soon I'll have a lot of these discs broken in or stuff to practice with, but I don't have a stack full of Axes or M3s that are all perfectly broken in, but I do with the rocks. So I'm using the rock, and that's the reason, because I have accessibility. So that's one mid-range. And then, like I said, I don't like to have a lot of different mid-ranges in the bag. So the other one I'm using is the Bard. I love the Bard. I think that that's a great mid-range. So this plays my overstable stuff. I have two of them, one that's really overstable, one that's stable to overstable. And then I carry the rocks for everything straight and then straight to turn. So those are the two mid-ranges that I'm carrying right now. Now, the rest of the discs on the table, the Goat, you know, I could see myself throwing it. I'd like it. But, you know, I got to get myself a DX one. The Anubis, for me, is a little too understable. I just have a beat-up rock for that. I don't like I've always told you, you know, really understable out of the box. But for the regular player, it's good. This Prophecy has been working its way in, you know, and I've been taking it out in practice rounds and trying to get it in the bag because it feels so good. So this could make it. The Ghost surprises me. You know, I can see the next time I'm going to put a new KC rock in when I'm running out. I don't have that many. That I can replace it with the Ghost and be just as happy. The Access in the MD, I like these discs a lot. They feel good, but I'm not a shiny disc thrower. I think this fits more of the younger kids today. They all love that stuff, like Simon and Eagle. Same with the M3. I think it's a great disc, but again, it falls into that kind of same category with the Buzz. So I think that I'll lean more towards the discs that have the non-shiny plastic and more of the bead with the blunt nose. And you should try whatever makes you happy. So that's what I'm throwing for this year when it comes to mid-ranges. But like you said, I'm trying to work a couple of these others in. Right now I got the Bard and the Rock. And I'm looking forward to a good season with them. I know that having a Bard was awesome in Mace. Now having a Bard and Rock combo should really increase my game. So I'm looking forward to it. Hi, this is the section of the show I like to call Mail Call. Please continue to send your questions to david.feldberg at nextgendiscgolf.com, and I will do my best to answer them. If I read them on the show, you know you're going to win a prize. Ask the previous winners. But realize that I can't answer every question. I wish I could. 200 to 300 a week makes it impossible. I'd have to make it my full-time job. But I'll answer what I can, and if you get on the show, well, then you know you're getting an answer. So let's go this week to Adam Gaj, who has asked me, how does the diameter affect picking a disc, especially a mid-range? He said that he notices that mid-ranges can range anywhere from about 174, 175 to 179 or 180. And do you pick that based on that, or does that have any factor for you? And I thought that was a great question because many people don't really think about this, and they just, you know, pick a disc based on feel. And if its max weight is 176, it's 176. They don't really ask questions. But, you know, over the years, you know, many years of players who only believed in throwing like a 178 to 180 mid-range. And you know, those were when there was Stingrays and Comets and Rocks, and you know, those were the majority of discs out there. And I think the reason from that is A, those players used to throw only heavy discs. Before the weight restrictions, those guys were slipping in 200-gram discs. So A, they wanted to throw as heavy as they could. B, their thought was the heavier the disc, the more it'll go through the wind. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I think that probably is scientifically correct, but I'm sure that you could have a very heavy understable disc and a very light overstable disc. So I don't think that that is necessarily a factor, but that was their thought process. Now, to answer the question for myself, yes, I do prefer the 180. And the reason I prefer the 180, like a rock, is that I like a disc that fits in my hand a certain way. And these 180 discs, they feel that just they're a little bigger, and I've naturally did it. I'm one of the old school people. I noticed though a lot of the kids today, they're really happy with the 176, 177 mid-range discs, and they get the performance that they're looking for. I personally always thought to myself, we only had DX. So I look at this rim. It's all chipped away. That weighs stuff. You know, my putter, for example, was 175. And then when I put it down to get a new one, it was 163. I mean, I lost 12 grams over, 10 years of play. Now that doesn't seem like much, but 12 grams will make a big difference. So I always went with the 180 thinking that maybe it'd turn into a 177 by the time I'm done playing with it, So does it a factor when picking a disc? No. Do I think it affects the flight? In heavier ones, if they're the stable wing, they might hold better, than a lighter one. And besides that, the heavier ones may drop or trap angles more. Maybe that's why the Rocks and the Stingrays and the Comets could just really hold the line, because there's a little more weight on the nose. those are some small things, but overall, I don't think it's a factor when picking a disc. I don't go, oh, I won't try that one because they only go to 178. I was a little thrown off when I went to Latitude and they all did that. I was like, oh, I want a 180, but that, you know, that's just my preference. So when picking a disc, Adam, that has something to do with diameter, don't worry about it. Just pick one that feels good in your hand, choose the right stability, and just get them all the same weight. That's what I recommend. Do they all have to be max weight? No, but get them all in the same weight within a gram so that you're used to throwing the same weight. All right, now the second question came from Tim Skellenberg, and he says to me, how do you know when it's time to try a new disc? He's been throwing a lot of the same discs for a long time, and he wanted to know, how does he know? You know, like, when is it time for him to say, hey, I want to try that new Goat, or I haven't tried an M3 or an Access or a Ghost. You know, I've been throwing rocks and buzzes for, 15 years. So how do you know when to? And I think the answer to that is there really, is no answer. I think that a lot of people say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you got a good mid-range game or a great game, there's no reason to find a new disc to replace it. But if you find that there is a weak point in some part of your game, and maybe it's fairway drivers, maybe mid-range putters, well, that's worth taking a look at. Now is the question your technique or is it the disc? And if you find that it's always that you're always just have a hard time when you tip it, that you can't get one that glides out and pans, it always turns over too much, or you can't get one that always flexes too much, well, then maybe that's the case and you should try something new. But in general, stick with what you know and only add new stuff if you find that the stuff that you're using isn't working for you. And that's why when you look at a lot of my bag, what I'm competing with, I have a lot of older discs that I used to throw, and not as many new ones as I'd like to with all these different choices I have. But you got to stick with what you know. And as the time comes and I say, oh, I lost that disc, or maybe you lose one that was in a perfect spot. Hey, let's try to replace that with something new. That's always exciting. It adds a little fun to the game. So if you lose your rock, go out and try a Ghost. Or if you lose your I don't know, your Giant, for example, why don't you go out and try a Outlaw? I just think that you don't know what they're going to fly like. Go out and maybe you'll find that your original pick was wrong and that your new pick is something you like a lot better. Now, at first, change can be exciting, so you might trick yourself into thinking you like it better. But overall, the only two times that I would say, Tim, that I would add a new disc is when I have a hole in my bag and I'm looking to try it, or that I've lost the disc and I now have a hole in my bag that I'm trying to fix. Or in general, if you just feel like trying some new stuff, because hey, as I'm proving in this podcast, a lot of companies are making a lot of good discs right now. So that's what I have for mail call. Continue to send them to david.feldberg at nextgendiscgolf.com. Hey, and Tim and Adam, look for your package in the mail. Now it's time for the NG Corner and giveaway section of the show, and let's just start with the giveaway. So playing out of Manitowoc, Wisconsin, PDJ number 87613. He just played at an NG in Wisconsin, and his name is Andrew Hoffman. That's right, Andrew, you're the big NG giveaway winner. So just look in your mailbox in the next week or two, and you'll get something great. It might take me a little bit because of the Masters Worlds, but we'll get it right out to you. But you're the giveaway winner. Continue to support. I know Wisconsin's one of our lighter states when it comes to NG, and that's why, hopefully we can get some more excitement and push in Wisconsin. Come on, Wisconsinites. Don't you want to win money? Don't you like to compete? I know you got a lot of tournaments there, but nothing as fun as NG, so hopefully you can see a lot more of you at the events. Now, the NG Corner is to give you the update, not also just the giveaway. And in the update, I would say, overall, NG, like I've said in the last couple podcasts, is on the uprise. Our numbers are looking really good this year. A lot of turnout. Premieres are getting ready to start. Those are exciting. I mean, big points and big events. I'm running two. One in Augusta, Georgia at the end of August, and one in Huntsville, Alabama, not Birmingham, at the end of September. They're both A tiers, the ones that I'm running, so look for them on the PDJ schedule. And if you're interested, head to the NG nextgenerationtour.com. Look for the premier schedule, or you can go on PDJ. All the premiers are sanctioned B tier or higher. You can look for them on PDJ.com schedule, or you can go to infinitedisc.com, click on the next gen, and just search your state and find out all the events in your area. So overall, things are looking good. We're excited about the national championships. We got some big, exciting news even more to announce about the national championships, but I can't tell you yet. I'll tell you in the next podcast. I promise, the next podcast. But until then, that's what I have for NG right now. We've hired some new people. Again, I keep hiring new people. We're growing the team. We're getting a lot of stuff out there. You're seeing a lot of things like consistent report cards and player profiles, and points are being updated, and newsletters going out, and all these things are happening, and that's due to having a high-quality team. So I just want to thank the NG team for being behind us here at Next Generation Tour, and that's your Next Gen update. We'll see you in the next podcast. All right, I like to do the next part of the show, which is called the NG Team Highlights, where I like to highlight at least one player from each level of our Next Generation Tour team, so you get to know them at home. So, on our national team this week, I wanted to highlight Sarah Hokum, who has 83 professional wins, and that's since 2008. You got to think, in 2008 was some of her first competition. She scorched amateur, like won, no problem. Immediately decided to play pro in that first year and picked up 3 professional wins in her first year competing in disc golf. So that's pretty impressive. And then, by 2010, she had 13 wins in a season. That's only 2 years later, and finished 6th in the professional world championships. So within 2 years, she's a dominator. And, one of the exciting parts of her career is that in the Worlds, 2012, she won. That's right, she got a world title. And then in 2015, she proved it wasn't a fluke, and she almost won again. She lost by 1 single stroke. So she's got a world title. She's got a runner-up world title, so that's pretty impressive. So then how does she play at the Women's USDGC? Well, she won that in 2013 and 2016. So obviously she is well-rounded. She's got 2 open titles, a world title, 83 wins, numerous national tours, and A-tier wins. So she's been all over the place. Let's see if I forgot anything here. One thing that stood out to me is that she's the Disc Golf Pro Tour Champion 2018. That's something I don't think most people are paying attention to, but that's right. She won the whole tour. She won the tour championship. So I just want to give a shout out to Sarah Hokum. She's really helping us promote Next Generation Tour. We brought her on originally to help us promote women, as we've added women this year, and hopefully women will start to compete in the Next Generation Tour more and understand that it's not just for guys anymore. So thanks to Sarah. Follow her out there, support her on the tour. She's out there every single week. She's running those MVP circuit challenges, and they're also a Next Generation Tour point earners. So just go ahead, support Sarah Hokum, support MVP, and support Next Generation Tour. Thanks, Sarah. Next person I want to mention is off our premier team, and that's Kyle Klein. That's right, Kyle Klein. He's still in high school, that's right, but he just won the USADGC with a 1040 average rated round. That wasn't a 1041 round, but a 1040 average rated round. And the kid, he hasn't been playing very long. He's only been playing a few years, dabbling here and there because, he's just a kid. But this year, all ones. That's right. Everything he plays and he wins, whether, it's advanced. You think it's just advanced? Nope, he played pro. He won. He turned on the cash, but he won. So I'll just tell you that right now. Kyle Klein's for real. I think he's waiting to win the Next Generation Tour of the Worlds before he turns pro. But I'll tell you that he's coming. I mean, last year he was runner-up in the Next Generation Tour, made a strong run to win the car. And this year I'd say he's favored to win the $7,000. I mean, he went to USADGC, shredded everybody. I know he didn't play every best amateur in the world, but he played the best in that area in many of them. And, he's got the experience for the Next Generation Tour, being the fact that he was runner-up. I mean, look at the year before, Silas Schultz runner-up, then he comes and wins. So I just think that, Kyle Klein could be a good favorite to win the Next Generation Tour final. But overall, I just want to say, Kyle Klein's on fire. He's got the goods. He's got the throw. He's got the support team and family. And he's a good kid. So thanks, Kyle, for being a part of Next Gen. We'll keep supporting you and just keep throwing fire, buddy. All right. Now, last person we mentioned on the team highlight is off of our exclusive team, and that's Jason Weldon. Jason Weldon has been a long-standing supporter of NG since day one. Since the first time we brought it out, Jason Weldon's been on the team. This is the first year we've actually highlighted people like himself, and so, Jay, thank you for all your support over the years. You deserve it. But, Jay started competing around 2010. I want to make sure I had that right. I was probably playing disc golf longer than that, but he started competing at the PDGA level around 2010. And by 2011, he won his first pro tournament. That's right. He won the New Mexico State Championships in 2011. And he hasn't looked back. He's got 22 career wins, 978 rating, so he can play some disc golf. And he's a 978 rating in New Mexico, which is probably about a 990 anywhere else. And he's consistent. He wins like a few events every single year, C and B tier levels. He usually cashes in most events he goes to. And, you know, he loves to play. But the other part about Jay is that he's a giver. You know, he's a family man, and the fact is that him and his buddy Marcus used to run Elite Brothers Disc Golf, which ran all the tournaments in New Mexico and the surrounding area. I mean, he's given up 12, 13, 14 weekends a year to run tournaments to keep disc golf growing in his area. And recently, I know that he had to get a new partner and take more of a role because Marcus has kind of stepped back from disc golf. So basically, Jay's taken it on himself with the help of some of his close friends, and he's still run all those tournaments, and he's brought back Penderies, which is one of the most famous disc golf. If you haven't played in New Mexico at Penderies, then you need to sign up. It is epic. The course is epic. The views are epic. It's a must bucket list before you go away from disc golf. But I'll just say, Jason Weldon, been a big help to our tour. Solid player, solid guy, does a lot for the sport, and we're proud to have him on Team XG. So anytime you see Jay, say hi to him, tell him NG said hi, and that's our team highlights for this week. I just wanted to say it's quite enjoyable having all these people on the team, and it's really exciting to be able to highlight them now that the season's starting. I mean, seeing people like Kyle Klein, you know, win the USA DGC and be on the front of PDJ just made NG proud. So thanks to all the team, and you know, we'll get you updated on 3 more next time. All right, we're to my favorite part. It seems to be a lot of people's favorite part, Legends of the Game. And so, you know, usually I've been picking people that are a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame that just haven't got there yet. This next person that I've selected, I'm not sure he's a quite shoo-in, but he's definitely should be a ballot. I'm not sure if he's going to make it. You know, hopefully he'll get the votes. I think he was a fierce competitor and a nice guy. Very well liked. And that's PDJ number 3832. Who is it? It's the great Larry Leonard of North Carolina. That's right. When I came into the game, Larry Leonard was special. I mean, you know, he was on Team Champion, and he just had this mystique about him where you knew he was going to do good. You know, he didn't win every tournament like Ken Climo, but he was there. For example, he only had 2 top 10 finishes at Worlds, but he had 6 top 25 finishes. So it's not like he was inconsistent. He just got like 15th a lot. 15th, 15th, 11th, stuff like that. So he was always there battling for Worlds. But I think that, you know, towards the end of his career, when he got to be almost 40 years old, he started to play really well at the U.S. Open. I mean, he took 3rd, 11th, and 4th. And that's in 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2003. So, I mean, he was very consistent. And then he turned to 40 years old. So then when he was 40... he, you know, started playing Masters at the Worlds. He got 6th, but then he almost won a Worlds in 2005 in Allentown. He got runner-up. That's right, runner-up to the great Dean Tannick, who also deserves to be in the Hall if he's not already. And he, you know, then finished 6th again, and then we haven't seen much from Larry. But up to that point, you got to think that's, you know, between majors, that's over 10 or 12 top 10 major finishes, 5 top 5 finishes, a couple runner-ups. I mean, that's pretty solid. He had 87 career wins. He won over $100,000 in disc golf. And, if, you know, one thing that people don't realize is that Larry didn't travel that much. He went to the Worlds and the U.S. Open and stuff like that. But a majority, he stayed in the area, and he played with Walt Haney and those guys, and they played week in and week out with the Schwebbergers and the McRaes and the Carlton Howards and all those guys. And he battled, and he won most of the time. When Larry was on fire, he was smooth. He just popped it in there and got a W. And I can just give you 2 stories that I can tell you about Larry. It's a sad thing, first, I want to go to, is that I wish I had more to talk about Larry, but all I got is my personal experiences because Larry did renew his PDGA number. The PDGA won't let me see his stats, which is crazy. I mean, the guy played for 20 years. I can get if it's like 1 or 2 years, but once a guy's 50-some years old and isn't around the sport anymore, I think we should be able to look at his stats to see how great he was. But nonetheless, I could tell you 2 stories I could think of. And the first one is my first Super Tour win. So, well, would have been my first Super Tour win. I was really excited in playing in the Dogwood Crosstown Classic around 2001, and I was battling. And it started to rain, and I battled the lead card, and I shot really well. And I looked like I won the tournament. Carlton Howard, Cam Todd were there in my group, and they shook my hand and said, "Great job." Barry Schultz, I think, was the 4th. And I was excited. I came walking through the parking lot like, wow, I finally did it. I won an A tier, especially in North Carolina, which was hard to do. And all of a sudden, I hear people kind of murmuring, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, I'm like, someone had to shoot a 10 under to beat me from the second group. It's pouring down rain. You know, I did the best with like a 5 under in the lead card. And they're like, Larry Leonard just shot 10 under. And I'm like, calculated in my mind, I'm like, wow, he just won by a stroke. All right, well, there goes my chance of winning an 8 tier. So Larry Leonard, you know, was just that guy. He just could play disc golf, and, you know, shot a 10 under from the second card and stole my first 8 tier. And then one of the first 8 tiers I ever attended, which was the 1998 Greater Peoria Open. I attended as an amateur. I cashed barely. I was excited. Met a lot of people that weekend, like Brad Hammock, for example. It was the first time I met Brad Hammock and Ken Climo. But I did get to see them compete because we went over to the awards, and it was over at McNaughton Park, and I got to catch just the very last hole, luckily, of Ken Climo playing against Larry Leonard. 800-foot par 4 across this long field back in the day when technology wasn't that great. And Larry went bam, bam, and then was facing, it looked about 50 feet to win. And at the time, I didn't think he was going to make it. Let's be honest. He was playing Ken Climo. Ken Climo was the best, and I was a young player thinking, oh, here comes Climo to win again. No. Larry Leonard steps up, cashes the 50-footer right in the heart, and claims the title and beat Climo right there in front of everybody. And, you know, it was pretty exciting for the sport. I mean, not too many people were doing that at the time. I believe they gave him the cover of the Disc Golf Journal at the time for winning that event. So I just want to say again, you know, what I always do is I talk more about the person. Larry was a great guy. He was really quiet. He kept to himself. I understand that Larry's not doing so well in health lately, so let's give out some positive thoughts to Larry. We're pulling for you, Larry. And just wanted to say that, you know, his skill levels was accuracy. And I know I keep choosing those guys. Maybe the next guy I'll pick will be about power, but accuracy was important. Shaping discs was like the #1 thing to do when I first started. And he was the master at it. He was one of them, you know, and he could throw discs with hyzer and shape them through woods and then count it if he had a look. You know, he was going to make a strong putt, and maybe not every time, but a strong look. And he had this pretty unique, tall style that was real pretty when he putted. It was like, and he just had this real, it just looked really well. And, you know, people looked up to him all around the country, and especially in North Carolina. I mean, he was the one that pushed those Walt Hades and McRae's and Schwebergers. I know Carlton Howard probably pushed him, but the rest of them, you know, Carlton Howard and Beaver, let's say, pushed him. But the rest of them came, you know, probably from Larry Leonard's skill. And, you know, skill rubs off on others, and there it was. So I just want to say a shout out to Larry Leonard, PDJ number 3832. We love you, buddy. We miss you out here, and you are a true legend of the game. All right, well, that was Disc Golf and Honest Take, episode number 3. We had our new releases. Don't forget the Mint Bobcat, which is a nice overstable. The new Star Splatter Emperor from Infinite Discs, if you want a high-speed driver. We covered 10 mid-ranges from our 10 NG sponsors. We did an NG giveaway, an NG highlight, highlighted some team members, and of course finished up with Legends of the Game. Don't forget we did mail call, and don't forget to send those questions in to david.feldberg at nextgendiscgolf.com. Just a quick shout out to the Disc Golf Honest Take sponsors, which is Infinite Discs, the Next Generation Tour, and of course my family and wife Cynthia and Leo Max. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. So thanks to my sponsors and my family, and always tune in to Disc Golf and Honest Take.